And then we also, as I just mentioned, another edition of the podcast is out. Lurie breaks it down. Thank you all. Thank you once again. As I said yesterday on air, the first days of the first episode that was out on Monday, and this will be a podcast that updates Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But the first episode that dropped on Monday, y'all's download numbers, my God, like it was so good. It was so good. And I don't really have a sense for these things. Like I know, like at least in YouTube land, I know that when you get a certain amount of followers or subscribers, that means a thing. I don't really know what that looks like in the podcast space. And so I was really excited to see that so many of you went to Lurie Breaks It Down on Spotify, on Apple. We got multiple 5 stars. I think it's at 4.9 on Apple. We're at 5 stars on Spotify. Somebody gave it a 3. I was like, you butthead. Like, what's the matter with you? It's not a 3. It's definitely not a 3. And that was off of the trailer, I think. So that really kind of irked me. But yeah, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all rocking with a sister. And I appreciate y'all understanding the power of the algorithm. Right? Because y'all didn't just go and listen. You downloaded, you followed, you rated it at 5 stars. And that all helps to trick the algorithms. And the beautiful thing about the podcast is that it allows us to spread this information beyond the sanctity that is Urban View. I had said yesterday after we got off YouTube, I had told you all that you are some of the most educated in our community when it comes to issues that matter right now. And this podcast is going to allow us to make sure our friends and family who cannot, for whatever reason, get access to Sirius, who don't have a subscription to Sirius, who don't know about Urban View, it's going to allow us to make sure that they are better prepared as well. And there's going to be a lot of need for preparation to come because as we are going to talk about today, is particularly in the second hour of the show, I'm getting that deep freezer. I ain't told Brian yet, but I'm getting the deep freezer. Me and my mama's already plotting. We're already planning because we're going to we got to prepare differently. I saw a post yesterday that was encouraging people to buy flour because a significant portion of our flour comes from Canada. There are now recipes floating around on how to make bread really, really easily. I didn't know it was that easy to make bread. I mean, it's not easy to make bread. I shouldn't simplify it, but I thought it was more complicated. And I'm not a bread maker. I don't plan on being a bread maker. And quite frankly, this whole trad life thing is not for your sister friend. I'm not one of them stay-at-home kind of women. I tried it. Well, I didn't really try it, but I had 6 months of maternity leave with my son and my daughter. And I realized that while this was a sacred, special, beautiful time, I am not built for the stay-at-home life, like when it comes to being a stay-at-home mom. That is not my ministry. Not that it shouldn't be anybody's ministry. It damn sure should be somebody's. It's just not my ministry. And so I don't have plans on turning into Keisha Homebaker, you know what I mean, as opposed to Susie Homebaker. You see what I did there? That's not going to be me. But I do think that as these prices increase, we need to be mindful. So, like, I'm an almond milk and oat milk kind of person. Shit is expensive. So I got a thing that, if necessary, I can make almond milk or oat milk at the house. And I know some of y'all who do this all the time are like, you don't need any devices to make almond milk or oat milk. Listen, I just told you I ain't gonna be Keisha Homemaker. Okay, so I don't know the things that y'all know. Then maybe we should have a call-in show where you guys get to, those of you who are already prepped, you're the preppers out there. Maybe we should have a call-in show for the preppers to help us prepare. Because I got questions. I have some questions. Should I get a solar power generator or a regular generator? I'm kind of feeling like a solar power generator. I mean, we got solar panels on the house. I feel like I should get a solar power generator. Now, I haven't talked about this with Brian, so if he's listening, he's probably like, what the hell is what? But these are the things that I think about as I'm taking a train into the show. I don't plan on making bread, but it's good to know that I could. And now that I know that Canada apparently exports a significant portion of its flour, which we import, and now flour prices are going to be increasing, I might get some more flour. I might. We're going to have some more beans. I just got a crock pot. Used to have one years ago, and then we stopped using it. I think we threw it away. Just got a crock pot. I love this crock pot. I love this crock pot so much. We finna have beans all the time. And what's funny is when I was a kid, we would have beans when we were broke, right? Like rice, and that's poor people food, like porridge in Jamaica, which my grandfather always called poor people food. I love porridge, cornmeal porridge, one of my favorite breakfasts. But he would be so mad when my mom would make it. He's like, why them eat the poor people for them food? He would be so upset about the poor people food. A little stush. Just a little bit, just a little stush. But, when I was a kid, the beans were like something that we had at the worst of times. And they were always delicious because it would be rice and beans and biscuits and then meat, right? But we had some really lean times as a kid, like really lean times. This is the same era. We used to do rice and beans as a kid. We were having very lean times, rice, beans, and biscuits. My dad used to make the best biscuits in the world. He was the chef. And my mom cooks, but, my mother cooks beautifully. But my dad was a chef and in the military. And so that's what he did. And so beans, the best biscuits you ever tasted in the whole world. And rice, that would be what we had when times were lean. Well, now I got beans in the cupboard. And my kids don't affiliate beans with poor people food because my kids are privileged. They have access to things that I used to yearn for as a young person. They don't know that it's poor people food. They just think it's yummy. And I'm like, that works. We'll take it. That works. So yeah, we got the crock pot. I'm stocking up on beans. And again, not because I think that there's... And I don't know. There are going to be some of us who do experience times of severe financial strain and difficulty. Let's just be honest about it. People who are losing their jobs right now, whether you're in the federal government or if you're in the private sector in an industry that is connected to federal contracts, you are going through it. So there is going to be a significant portion of us that are going to have to grapple with exposure to levels of poverty that we have thought we had insulated ourselves against. But we also know that most Americans could not come up with $500 in an emergency if they need it. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. I was telling the team I have a dance mom thing this weekend. And it was we didn't know it was going to happen. It was kind of last minute. But it costs a pretty penny. And I was telling my daughter, like, I could not, I started ballet lessons as a kid, and then we had to stop because they were too expensive. And I tell my kids these stories because I want them to understand you've got it really freaking good. You've got it really good. And I want you to appreciate that and to understand that because I need you to value what it is that you have. But they don't connect with beans as poor people food. They just connect with beans as good food, which is a good thing for me because they finna eat some beans. we gonna have it's not gonna be the struggle meal. But we're shifting. So I told y'all, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, hold on to your money. Save your money. They were talking on the news about how this big truck, and I can't remember which truck it was, but it's a truck, and we're going to talk again about this more in depth in the second hour, but it's a truck that typically costs $80,000. And as a result of these tariffs, it's now going to cost $100,000, 20% increase. And we're going to talk about how the products that we use often have not just one set of tariffs, but multiple sets of tariffs, depending on where certain portions of them are made and how they actually make it from the manufacturer into your household. So whether you're well-to-do or just thanking God that you woke up another day because you aren't so well-to-do, but you've at least got gratitude. Frankly, all of us should be doing that. No matter whether you've got a lot or not, we should all be waking up in the morning and thanking God for another day. But we're going to be facing some challenging times financially. So hold on to your money. And apparently deep freezers are not that expensive. I was looking at them on the way in. They're not that expensive. If you can let me say they're not that expensive, relatively speaking, if you got it. If you don't got it, then they're prohibitively expensive. I don't want to delve into conversation that feels more classist than it needs to be, but, I have to be mindful of that as somebody who grew up in a very different and more challenged socioeconomic status than the one I sit in right now. I'm very conscious of that. It disturbs me at times when I see how loosely my children their connection with money is. And we have tried to really raise them in a way that they don't have to worry for nothing. Our kids don't have to worry about nothing. But I sometimes think maybe you should worry a little bit because that worry creates some hustle. Some sense of stick-to-itiveness. It allows you to fight a little harder. And one thing I notice about people who grew up poor but who are raising children who don't, those kids that we raise often do not have the appreciation for resources. So that's why I kind of appreciate a Warren Buffett and other billionaires who have said they're not leaving nothing for their kids. You're going to have to work for it because there's something about the working for it that builds up a little muscle that I think more of our kids need. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to fake with my children to pull that out of them a little bit more. But we got a lot coming. We got a lot we're going to talk about today. Again, as I said, Imani Gandhi will be here. We are going to have an in-depth discussion about what happened last night. Did y'all watch the State of the Union? Did you watch? I did not watch the State of the Union. I read the transcripts and I familiarized myself with it. I heard somebody calling the Clay Kane show yesterday who said, you're abandoning your responsibility by not watching. It was like, oh, you're not familiar with the legacy of protest when it comes to black media and that particular speech. There are many, many ways to get access to the speech and what was said. And it was lies, lies, and more lies. I mean, that man lies as the day is long. He just lies so damn much. It did the lying coming and the lying going. That's what was happening. That's what was happening. And so, I don't know what the numbers were. I'm sure we'll get information about ratings soon. But I spent my time watching stateofthepeople.media. Shout out to Clay Kane and Reese, who had a time block and then they had invited some of us to pop in for a cameo, and then things shifted real quickly, and then the cameos we weren't really going to even be able to do it. So I appreciate all the effort that they went to make sure the microphone was passed. Roland Martin had an extensive panels of folks who were talking as well. Lots of people were doing Black media things, and that was a very powerful thing to see. I didn't get to participate in much of that because we also had a reparations commission hearing meeting last night.